Hello friends and welcome to a new video. Today I wanted to decorate my new sketchbook with you, and before we start let's go over some facts of this sketchbook. So this is a Moleskine watercolor sketchbook which has 200 GSM paper and 72 pages in total. It's almost an A5 size, so it's 13 by 21 centimeters. It's a bit smaller than a typical A5, but I really learned to enjoy the size, and it's something so special and fits in any handbag, so that's really practical for on the go. I love the paper in it. It was the same sketchbook that I used the last time, and maybe you have seen my last video, which was a sketchbook tour of this specific sketchbook, just like the one before. And I felt so in love with it that I just needed to try it out again. It was the very first time, the last time to try out the sketchbook, and it's really incredible. I can really recommend it, even though it's a bit on the pricier side. So maybe you already saw that I already sketched out the cover of the sketchbook, but before we go in coloring, I wanted to sketch also the inside of the sketchbook. And this is a scene from Howl's Moving Castle, which is such a beautiful movie that I already saw when I was a child on television, and I remember it's such a nostalgic feeling to watch this movie again and again. And I somehow was so inspired by it this time, and I get these phases where I like specific things for a certain amount of time that I always want to recreate it and somehow just represent where my mind was at that state. So here we have a scene where Howl, in his, I would say, bird form, is hugging Sophie, which is such a beautiful moment. And I sketched anything out with a Faber-Castell Polychromo in a red color. I wanted to try this because I saw a video of someone talking about sketching in colored pencil, and it looked so cool and way better than when you have the graphite under it. Sadly, this one is not erasable, but I tried my best that I go really lightly with the first sketch and then a bit thicker with the finished sketch, if you could say it like that. So when I was sure where I wanted to have the things, then I really pressed down hard. And because I went so lightly on the sketch at the beginning, you can't really see a lot of the pre-sketching because it's almost translucent. And when it's almost translucent, I feel it's possible to erase the polychromo Faber-Castells. So you just have to be really careful with this. Something I really like to do while sketching is trying to put as many details as possible in my sketch, because especially when I work with darker colors, the sketch can get lost pretty easily, but when you have a certain lighting you can still see it shining through, and that's really important to me because I feel like when I lose all of the sketching part and don't have a lot of reference to when I draw, then I somehow always mess up the details or even forget about them. And something I really learned in my last sketchbook was that detailing is anything in art. A piece can change so much from the fact that you put more details, lighting and shading in it, and just like some small things that may seem invincible when you try to look for them, but in the overall it's really such a change. So finally we come to the cover page of the actual sketchbook, and probably what the most of you are here for, because a lot of people ask me with my old sketchbook how I painted on top of it and how I did this and what I used for it and how I see that. So we will go over all of this. So let's first of all get over some facts. I'm using the Arrtx acrylic brush markers. I have to say I'm not 100% happy with them, but these are the only ones I've got, except for some really old Posca markers, which are so old most of them aren't working anymore. I'm thinking still about what marker set I want to get next. I'm thinking about upgrading to the Langu I hope I pronounced it right, but it's a 240 set, so you have a lot of color variation. For the sketch on the cover of the sketchbook, I struggled a lot. That's also why I don't have any video footage of how I put down the sketch, because I tried using an Caran d'Ache colored pencil in a really light beige color, but it wouldn't stick to the cover and I was struggling a lot. You couldn't see anything on the camera. That's just why I skipped it. And then for the face, I switched to a Jelly Roll gel pen. I think everyone knows them. It's like a white jelly like pen. It's almost like a gel pen, but I think a bit juicier, and that would have been the right choice to go, to be honest. But it is what it is. Don't try using Caran d'Ache on it. Maybe another brand would work. If you know any that will definitely do, then let me know in the comments. I would be so grateful for you, since I'm still searching for the perfect sketching pen on a textured cover like this. One thing I can say is I really struggled with the sketchbook cover. It may seem as a perfect finished piece at the end, but it was a real big trust the process moment. I was so close to skipping this video in total and just getting anything off of the sketchbook cover, because I was so unhappy and nothing really covered the black. I don't know why, because with my last sketchbook I just had this eye and some leaves and it was everything fine, it was perfect. But with this one, especially with the really light colors like the skin and the gray from his sweater, it was so hard, I can tell you that. So maybe sometimes when you think you should skip or just give up, this is your sign to keep going, because it was definitely worth it. So now we come to the part which I struggled most with, which is the face. I quickly realized that the black marker was way too thick in a nib, and also I felt like the face was just like off, like the side profile. I don't know what it was, but I learned something and maybe I can help you with it. So actually I at some point just had a big beige blob and outlined the face in black. So sometimes you just have to think in another direction to get where you want to be. So if you ever struggle with something of mistakes, especially with a medium that you can't easily erase, then it really helps to have a pen or a marker or anything that has the same color as your background. So for me it was black, and to be honest, you can't really see the difference between the black paint and the black sketchbook. So I simply had, as I said, this beige blob and outlined with the black until I liked the face. And now we come to another tip that I wanted to show you is when you want a glowing effect with acrylic markers, use your fingers. You may look a little bit messy after that, but when you swipe the marker, like the ink that is freshly on your page, in the direction you want the glow to be, then you can get a really beautiful glow. Later on, we will also paint some fairy lights, so I can show you how I do these. And this part was definitely the one that was most fun for me. I actually sketched the lights out, but at some point I just went free will and sketched wherever I saw it fitting and added a lot of little tiny dots. And here we can see again that details definitely make all the difference. Like I already said, the black marker was way too thick to get any details down. I then used an Pigma Micron fine liner on top of the acrylic marker. When it's completely dry, that's no problem at all. Just be sure to go really lightly over it so you don't accidentally scratch off the color from your page. And I'm really sorry that my head is coming so often into the video right now, but I didn't have my glasses on and I'm blind. Like literally I can't see details really good, so I have to go sometimes really close to the page. I really need to get new classes, so this will not happen again. So now we only have a few little details left. On the top in the red of the code I wrote down volume 2 and then the date I started it in blue, which is October 2025. I know I actually started in September, but it's only 5 days in September, so I think it looks way better on the shelf later on when it's with October. And again, I used the trick with the black marker, so at first I didn't like how it looked, how I've written it down, so I just covered it with black marker. And I also like to write down on the spine of the sketchbook what sketchbook it is, like volume 2 in this case, and when I started and ended it. So maybe in 20 years I have a lot of finished sketchbooks, hopefully, and then I can just look back and show my children or my grandchildren, like, here is from this year and this year, since I also do a lot of sketches of current events, and so I can really easily look back at it. One last detail I can never live without is a lot of stars and sparkles. Every page has these stars and sparkles for me. I just love painting these. And now we come to the inner page, which is, as you remember rightly, Howl hugging Sophie. And in this part, I don't know why, but a lot of aspects just didn't get filmed even though I pressed start. I don't know if it's because I did a new update and I have kind of an older phone, but I had to just press start because my phone is way above me and it just decided to skip some steps of it. So to the method that I used on this painting, it's so easy and I believe anyone can do it, because what I simply did was on my MacBook on the left side of my face I had the image which I wanted to recreate, and I just checked out where the light and the dark parts is. And especially with Ghibli films and characters, there are not a lot of values in it and they're not blended or anything. So I always drew out the light and then the dark part without any blending, and it may look a little bit rough when you begin with it, but as soon as you start outlining it with a fine liner, I like always use a Pigma Micron. I love these fine liners for years now, and then it really comes together. And when you really are about to finish your painting, then you want to take a really light acrylic marker or a really light gel pen and highlight some parts that you can see in the picture are highlighted. So this is a really easy way to color a Ghibli character, and it was so much fun. It was the first time trying this method. It was kind of spontaneous and I really love how it came out, because at some points I struggled with it because I thought maybe I don't put enough work in it, but that's the fun thing about art. It doesn't always have to be a lot of work. It can be easy as that. So just try to check where the light and the dark is in the painting, and then first light and the light or the dark, which you feel more comfortable with, or which color you have at hand first. It really doesn't matter. Wait a few seconds for the color to dry, especially when you're using aqua markers, and then go over it with your light color. And now I'm gonna do this with this whole painting basically, so I just let you enjoy the music and then I will see you when we start with the fairy lights. So here I am again, and now we're gonna do the fairy lights. And trust me, they are so easy to paint. So basically you want 3 colors. You want a darker, lighter and a lightest color for a fairy light. You can do it basically in any color you like, but for the lightest color I almost always choose a white. So you want to start putting down your darkest shade and just drawing circles and then press on your finger with it, or even rub little circles in it. That way you get this shiny effect, which I already told you at the cover page. It's really easy. Of course it's a bit messy, but it's so much fun drawing with your fingers. Like, maybe you can see it on my hoodie, but I'm a really messy person while drawing because it just brings me back to being a child. Then you want to go in with your medium color and do the exact same thing, just with smaller dots. Sometimes I blend them, but not always. What I also like to do is with the medium color that I do a few little strokes in it, and always make sure that you let every layer dry completely. That's why I'm drawing some stars right now. As I said before, there's no finished page without some stars for me. And then when the medium color is dried, you're just gonna do a little tiny dot in white on top of the medium color. So you can either do this again with a white gel pen if you have one that has really good coverage, or with a white acrylic marker. Just be sure that you don't get a marker that is too thick. And now again, the same thing as with the cover. I wrote down Sketchbook Volume 2 and when I started it, and I cuddled my cat, of course. Then I wrote down my contacts, so my Instagram, so in case anyone finds the sketchbook when I lose it or something, they can contact me. And I wrote down that I will have a reward of 10 euros and a little painting, of course. So when they contact me that they found my sketchbook, I will just reward them, and that way I can be sure that people will give it back to me. And lastly, I added the famous quote, "There you are, sweetheart. Sorry I'm late. I was looking everywhere for you." I always get this wrong. And which I didn't film on the cover, I just wrote down, "Find me in the future." And that's already it with this sketchbook cover and sketchbook decoration. And here you can see a little close-up of it. I love how it came out, and I hope you had a great time and decide to join my little art community.